In 1966, the year of the Senate hearings, sales of Corvairs dropped dramatically, but the demand for smaller, fuel-efficient vehicles continued to grow. So in 1970, Ford introduced the Pinto, a car initially targeted to weigh 2,000 pounds and to cost $2,000.
The Pinto was basically a scaled-down version of a regular-sized car, but in order to keep the cost low and the weight low, the Pinto was rushed into production without paying much attention to the vulnerability of the fuel tank.
Located 3 inches from the rear bumper, the Pinto fuel tank was easily ruptured in a low-speed rear collision. The gasoline filler tube, welded by screws to the fender but not to the tank, often fell out on impact. Protruding bolts and edges from the differential and rear suspension could puncture the fuel tank's thin sheet metal. The spilled gasoline could easily ignite. Also, the impact of a collision could jam the doors shut, trapping victims inside. This test by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, in which a Pinto was hit from behind at 35 miles per hour, showed just how dangerous the car could be.
It was a total disaster in terms of an unsafe fuel tank, an unsafe filler tube, minimal rear body structure, doors that would jam. Everything was bad about the Pinto in a rear impact.
Horrifying burn accidents from rear-end collisions made the Pinto notorious. Following their own crash tests, NHTSA set tougher legal safety standards for rear-end collisions. In 1978, Ford recalled 1.4 million Pintos for safety improvements. But by that time, the Pinto's reputation was beyond repair.
When you start producing something that millions of people are going to use, the consumer has expectations, and if you don't meet those expectations, there is somebody else that is going to satisfy them, and the consumer is going to forget your name very fast.
But the story of the Pinto was also a matter of missed opportunity. In Ford's early crash tests of prototype Pintos, some were equipped with airbags and a plastic bladder liner inside the fuel tank.
This is a fuel cell bladder, and right next to it, this is an actual Pinto fuel tank, and inside is such a bladder liner, a safety bladder liner. Now, Ford Motor Company crash tested Pintos with a similar safety bladder liner inside the sheet metal fuel tank. And in their crash tests, even though the sheet metal fuel tank was punctured in what Ford said are puncture-prone areas, thanks to the safety bladder liner inside the fuel tank, there was no leakage.
However, both the airbags and the fuel cell bladder had been eliminated to save money by the time the Pinto hit the highway.
It would have had airbags, it would have had a safety fuel tank, it would have been the safest small vehicle ever made, and it would have been a true engineering marvel rather than a profound engineering disaster.